Joining us to talk about the two crucial areas of enterprise asset management and field service management today is Ralph Rio, Research Director at ARC Advisory Group. Ralph, welcome.
Thank you.
Ralph, let's talk about enterprise asset management software and just why it's so crucial to industrial organizations. What would you say?
Well, number one, it gives the managers of maintenance visibility into what's going on so they can manage the resources, the people, and the materials to maintain the equipment appropriately. And it helps them meet their key metrics. Number one is uptime, so the equipment is available to meet the production schedules. Number two is asset longevity, so it lasts longer and doesn't need to be replaced. That conserves cash, and generally CFOs like that a lot. Third is safety, so that there aren't incidents, and the fourth is just so they can manage costs, labor, and materials. And it's particularly important in the continuous process industries because if there's a incident, that could cause damage to the plant, a lot of wasted materials, or it could even create a situation that's on the local news. And neither of those things are good for your resume.
Well, somebody might say, I hear the benefits that you've just listed there, and even though you say you're talking about the plant, I'm just wondering if that's really different from field service management. So what do you say to them?
Well, field service management adds a different set of functionality. With enterprise asset management, in plant, you're usually dealing with an area that is well understood and people know where equipment is and stuff like that. When you deal with field service management, you're servicing assets that are on a client's, typically on a client's local site. And the service technician needs to go from site to site to site. So now functionality like mapping becomes very important, GIS, route optimization, choosing that route based on priorities and a bunch of things, and even billing authorization. And there's much more to it than that. So it's EAM plus some functions that fit field service management.
I know that you have done extensive work in best practices. So if you could give us a little insight into that, and what would you say is a crucial takeaway from that research?
Yeah, we run a best practice survey among maintenance managers every year for the past several years. And this year I added among the new questions I added was one about what makes a project successful. What factor leads to successful project implementation? And we had things in there like operator training, tech support from the supplier, and a bunch of other typical things that you would expect.
All of which are important, no doubt.
Agree. But on the last moment, I just added in business justification on a whim. And it turned out that business justification was the highest ranked thing for successful project implementation.
Walk us through. Why?
Well, if you think about it, a good business case affects the metrics of the executive team, the things that are on a balance sheet or P&L statement. That gets their interest. We all respond to our metrics, and that's true for chief executives also. When you got management support, then they allocate the resources you need for the project to be successful. You get IT support, you get enough funding, and you get political support so that if there's some resistance in some group, then that can be more easily overcome. So this, the fundamental success factor for a good project, the implementation, turns out to be a good business case right up front at the get-go.
Let's turn to mobility. Now, that is an area that's getting an awful lot of press and an awful lot of interest in that. Certainly an awful lot of interest in that going on here at the World Industry Forum. What's the place that you see for mobility?
Well, it is a growing area, but unfortunately, paper is the most common mobile device. That's been improving. We've been doing this market research, this user survey for a number of years. And now it's improved somewhat, but it's still 49% of the cases, paper is the most common mobile device. Now that's problematic because the way that works is you print out the work orders for a maintenance technician to know what they're going to do for a shift or for a few hours. The maintenance technician takes the paper with him, goes from place to place to place, and then either just before lunch or at the end of the shift, they're expected to enter that information in the EAM system. Well, they got other distractions at that moment, and you have compliance issues. They don't enter the information, or they're quick about it and it's inaccurate. Inaccurate information in the system makes the whole system bad. It affects the integrity of the system. When you can't trust the system, people don't use it. Mobile solutions allow the technician to enter the data as part of their workflow. Compliance goes up, accuracy goes up, and the EAM system can be trusted.
You know, my next question has to do with weaknesses, but it occurs to me, based on what you've just told us about some of the issues of paper being mobile, that's certainly one of the weaknesses
Agreed.
in the enterprise right there. Anyway, here's the question. Do you see, based on the extensive research that you've been doing, consistent weaknesses in these areas? What would they be?
Well, there is an area that is definitely a weakness and doesn't get enough attention from an enterprise asset manager or field service manager viewpoint, and that has to do with the inventory, the spare parts inventory. Typically, number one, there's duplicate part numbers. You may have a 1-inch valve and that came in with one particular piece of equipment. They have a part number for it. Another piece of equipment has the same part number in it, but it has a different part number. You wind up with multiple stocking units. When it goes bad on one piece of equipment, and you may be out of stock in that particular part number, but it may really be in stock because it's in another location on another part number. You don't know that. You got to stock out. You got surplus inventory because it's in multiple locations. That's problematic, and it's fairly easy to solve. There are methodologies for solving the duplicate part number issue. The second one is the reorder point and economic order quantity for the parts, the optimization of the inventory levels. People set that when they get the equipment, and it's not revisited months or years later when situations change. Both those things, if people would to optimize the inventory by removing duplicate part numbers and revisiting the economic order quantities, would reduce the inventory levels. That conserves cash. CFOs will love you. Good career move. That needs more attention.
Is it fair to say, though, that those weaknesses that you just described, are they widespread? I know you have researched company after company after company. This is not an isolated situation. You find these problems across the board, I should think. Is that fair to say?
Particularly around the inventory optimization. We have a client in power gen who started to attack the inventory optimization issue. They reduced their inventory 30% over the course of a couple of years. Now, in power gen, inventory is significant enough to be on the balance sheet. It was a huge savings.
Well, Ralph, this has been a valuable oversight or overview into two crucial areas here. And I know you're busy at the forum, but you took time to visit with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you.
It's Ralph Rio, ARC Advisory Group, and speaking with us today about enterprise asset management and field service management, two crucial elements in the business world. Thank you so much for watching.